We are high up.
Come, my friends, behold the thunder of X2. Closing your eyes won't make it go away. You are not in your happy place.
Okay, so that was really extra, but it was good.
If you know, you know.
Yeah. It's
Anyway.
extra because it's X2.
It's extra times 2. Today's episode is about X2. We are listening to the Coast Kings A3Z Minisodes.
Mm-hmm.
We are again nearing the end of the season. I think I have 2 episodes left after this.
Also, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you
Wherever
are.
you be. My name is Sean.
And I'm Alex.
And next week it'll be Sven. And the week after it'll be... Oh no, next week it's Ian. And the week after it's Sven.
And then the alphabet is all done.
But our main episodes are not done. This is probably the longest season yet. We've got Movie Park, Hyde Park, Haunted Park, Jura Summerland, Tron vs. Guardians of the Galaxy,
Yes.
Potentially a special episode. We have Walibi Holland, Disneyland Paris, Europa Park,
yeah.
Tipsel. There's so much coming still. We're not done yet.
Yeah.
But today we're going to be talking about X2, our little hometown fave. We
The hometown hero.
the hometown
X2.
hero, where you park your car at your apartment and all you see is the beautiful rolling hills of Valencia and some steel that's X2 right in front of you. X2's stats? Should we do stats first?
Yeah, okay, we're gonna do stats.
For those that don't know,
That's a good
the
place to
coaster
start.
is,
It's 3,610 feet long,
which
or
is 1,100.3 meters long,
it's 175 feet tall, or
53.3 meters tall,
the first drop is 215 feet, or
65.5 meters in real language.
and the top speed in dumb American language is 76 miles per hour.
Which sounds way cooler in kilometers because it's 122.3 kilometers an hour.
I
So
must
fast.
agree, it does.
So great.
And the angle of the drop is 88.5 degrees, which is the same in English as it is in, well, in this, not
Same
English.
in metric as it is in Imperial.
There we go.
See,
Yeah,
Imperial
there we go.
sounds
Imperial.
evil. Like the Imperial
Army.
Empire.
Yeah.
Like some Star Destroyer
It's
to
not-
blow you
it's
up.
Not good.
Anywho's.
No.
So,
What is there to say about X2 except that like we
It's actually crazy.
we worship this ride?
we do worship this ride. Will we say it's not the best of the 40 coasters? Yes. Admittedly, now there's a whole episode. There's a whole article on that. It's called X2 versus Ichinaga versus Dinoconda. X2 is the third in command when it comes to quality, but of course it is the pioneer.
But it was
the first. It is the OG.
X2 walked so that like all of these goofy little free spin coasters could run.
This is one of those typical moments where you're like, it was reverse engineering. They started with something so crazy, like Ellen Shoki said, the zipper on a coaster.
Yeah.
That they engineered that first, and then we got stuff like the wing coaster and the free spin years later, despite that the natural order wouldn't have been otherwise in the other direction.
Simplified versions of rides that were inspired by this coaster have taken over the market. Like, ultimately, the original 4D coaster, as it is with the 3 installations, I don't know if we'll ever see more, or maybe it'll be a long time. Who knows?
Oh my god! I mean,
the
so badly.
the Vekoma tilt coaster came back after 20 years. You know, sometimes it just takes a while for people to catch up. It's like that line from The Wedding Singer where he's like, "You might not be into this, you might not be ready for that, but your kids are gonna love it." Like, have you seen that meme? Because it's a good internet meme, and it's very useful for things like rides that are ahead of their time. And X2 is a great example. Not only was X2 expensive, complicated, and genius, and way ahead of its time,
and difficult.
But it's also it's also extremely terrifying. And it's a niche ride. Are there other parks in the United States that would benefit from a ride like X2? Probably. Are there many parks that would actually go through with it? I don't think so.
Well,
it's a lot to ask of a park. Like, we
always say that it's super niche. Like, it's one of those things where, like, if your grandma's in good health, you can put her on Gatekeeper. If your grandma's in good health, you can still not put her on X2.
Yeah, if she's in good health, she won't be when she comes back on the station.
Oh my god, is that the truth? Now, on Dinoconda, no, you wouldn't be in good health in any of them, because even when they're smoother, I mean, Dinoconda launches you to fucking Mars. Like, it's crazy.
X2, you have to ride that ride a lot to reach a point where, like, when we ride it, I mean, the first drop still gets me every time. I can't ride the ride silently. Like, a primal scream still rises up from the depths.
Okay, so let's say somebody doesn't know X2, which is rare, but let's go through the layout real quick then. So you leave the station
in reverse.
Backwards.
Yeah.
You go down a slanted turn up to the lift hill, and then you are facing the beautiful Santa Cruz Valley and all of Six Flags Magic Mountain right in front of you. It's a good minute.
It was so clever. It was such a really strategic choice.
And you can't see what's next and when the top of the lift hill approaches, all that kind of good stuff. Now you got to the top of the lift hill, and there's a pre-drop because, of course, the trains are so heavy they need a pre-drop. So you pre-drop, and as you pre-drop, you tilt. You're kind of far back on your. Well, you start off kind of far back on your back. You can see the ground below you backwards,
and then you start to roll forward,
and then you see the whole drop straight below you. I call it the skydive drop because you're quite literally skydiving.
You are going like face down, and
whole body laying down, face down.
Right as the drop starts to pull out, you
do a front flip.
Continue your front flip so that you're on your back when the G-forces come.
Then there's a Raven turn. In which a Raven turn is practically like a giant half loop, but instead of it finishing up the track upright again, it actually continues the track in the position it's in. So at this point, your track is inverted, and you are now facing forward.
And the seats kind of rotate around you. They keep you when you're entering the Raven turn and exiting the Raven turn. You're right side up for the whole thing, which kind of allows you to really. It kind of feels like you're taking off in a shuttle, like a space shuttle or something. And
especially in the front.
And you get to just
I feel like my nose almost started bleeding.
Appreciate, like you can really just view the ride, like the vast expanse of the ride. And then so now we're hanging. Now
you're diving down, and you again are kind of swooping onto your back. Then there's a giant airtime hill, in which you do a complete backflip. Then you get to a wave turn, which is a part of the ride where you can actually kind of breathe. Like it's kind of important.
Yeah.
You do that fan turn, you breathe a little bit. Then there's a pretty aggressive swing down again, in which you're still on your back, facing up, because you're still inverted.
It has a little mild directional change. Like it's a big right U-turn, but then there's a tiny little left turn, like directional.
It's not necessarily correctional on direction. It's more for correction
on like the banking. Yeah.
Which, because it's a wind coaster, is very much exemplified. Like, you really notice it.
Yeah.
And then you enter what they call a fly to lie. So the track will now, via a sort of half zero G roll. Let's say motion zero G roll, but it's only doing half of the inverting.
Half twist, and the vehicles rotate 180 degrees, so you're right side up again. But now you're on top of the track again, and you're backward again.
Yeah, now you're backwards
just
again.
like when you dispatch the station.
And
there's flamethrowers
in your
because
face,
why not?
If they're working,
and
if the audio is working, it's even cooler too.
Windy. Yeah,
and then you have an outside Raven turn.
That's
now this is probably the most intense part of the ride because this Raven turn, you enter it in one direction and you exit it in about a 45-degree direction facing towards the station.
Yeah,
hard to explain.
It's almost
but there's a lot of movements the whole train makes while also turning you from laying down to now suspending under the track again, facing forward.
Yeah. It does, So the seats, it's basically the first Raven turn in reverse, where it's like in a dive loop sort of form, but it almost has like kind of a sidewinderness to it because it has that diagonal directional change to where you go from like, you come into the inversion straight on, but then you exit it going way to the left.
Now, this is something that's so intense, it's such a headbanger, low-key, like, I'm not gonna lie, that this is something that they addressed first on the next models.
Yeah.
What they did on the next models is they put the station at dead center of the plot, and they used the turnaround moment, which is different on every of the three installations.
The big U-turn is different.
To position you in a way where you do not have to cross over the entire ride plot to get back to the station, so you don't have to have that weird angle in that Raven turn, because I really do think it's the most intense.
It's a great moment. It is really intense.
In the front, it's fine because you go through it so quick.
Yeah.
But in the back is really when you get like all the beating.
It definitely shuffles you. And also because you're on the outside, and it's so squat. It's such a small inversion.
The element is very tiny.
It's literally
the later ones are larger.
Less than half the size of the first Raven turn, and you feel like you just went through that.
Oh, I would say it's a third.
Yeah, it's so tiny.
And especially as X2, it runs through much faster because the trains are much lighter and they track better, which we'll get into the X2 conversion in a little bit. But after
we're already
that Raven
9 minutes
turn,
in. We don't want to take
it's going to still
time.
be in Minisode. We'll make it work.
All right.
After that Raven turn, you have
one little quick fly to... because you're flying again for that moment.
So fly to lie, and then
you exit the outside Raven turn, and you're in flying position again for a brief moment. but then you have to go right side up again. So you do one more flip, and that's like...
And then the train is face backwards. It's actually kind of a fun element.
That element, I feel like on all 3 wing coasters, is like where your soul leaves your body.
Especially, the very last moment?
Yeah, because, especially on Ichinaika, because Ichinaika does it.
Ichinaika is the break run where it really kills you.
But Dynaconda is the break run that will make you feel like you're about to die.
Because on Ichinaika, the break run is used as a special element where you flip forward.
Yeah.
It's just on the brakes.
It felt like I thought my face was gonna scrape the catwalk like a cheeseburger.
Like some Parmesan.
And then Dynaconda enters the brake run innocently enough, except that the catwalks for the brake run are way longer. Like, they took a whole set of brakes.
And the brake is very elevated, so it's almost like an I-305 kind of slow brake, but then imagine magnets over the bottom half of it.
Yeah, you fly through it and you think, like, where are the brakes? Where are the brakes? It's like an old Star Tours moment.
Yeah. Anyway.
If you know, you know.
So, let's jump back to X real quick. Obviously, X is very troubled. Color scheme was cool, pink, yellow. Everyone's seen it before.
The pink lemonade experience.
The big problem was the trains were so incredibly heavy that they had to actually replace every single wheel in every single train every single day. Super expensive, not doable.
Actually, I did not know that.
Ride closed shortly after previews, and then, kind of like a Superman Escape situation, opened then again a year later in 2002 to actually open to the public. Now, obviously, that didn't last. In order to recoup their investments, they relaunched the ride as X2 with audio, fire, fog effects, and light effects. What's still left of it is an occasional fire flame and an occasional audio working. But I mean, to be honest, it's been X2 for a lot longer than it was ever X.
Yeah.
And the Ichinaika actually opened before the X2 transformation, so Ichinaika received the old trains.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, in Ichinaika, despite being manufactured and designed a lot better than X, that also didn't last. So Ichinaika eventually also went to the new train. So all 3 installations run the new trains.
Yeah.
But the relaunch of X2 was very much needed to keep maintenance of the ride in check. And in order to do so, they couldn't just add new trains. They went through the X2 process because they had to recuperate those costs.
Yeah.
So remarketing it as a whole new attraction.
It started this major trend across Six Flags of like relaunching existing rides. Mr. Freeze Reverse Blast, for example.
Superman Escape from Krypton. Bizarro.
All of these, like, exactly. Yeah, all of that big trend of like repainting, retheming existing rides and marketing it as a new ride started with X2.
And it was clever. I mean, X2 is rumored to, I don't have the exact numbers here, to single-handedly have paid for the Terminator licensing and the Terminator construction, which is why that was such a shortly followed up attraction.
Yeah, because it was the year later.
It was literally the year after they went ahead and they added Terminator. So X2 was a slam hit, and I'm talking the post-X era. X was cool. It made world news. But it's one of those rides that's so troubled. It almost gives me, it's one of those things that some people associate it with. X2 is
so much more functional,
yeah.
And that's when it starts entering like local legend hero status. Especially because of the time of the 2008, getting X2 online and like turning that ride into a reliable coaster, especially on the heels of the very successful Tatsu in 2006.
That's so sick. Tatsu actually saved the park.
And then opening Terminator Salvation in 2009. They didn't know it at the time, but that park was set for the recession. For people to be on staycations for the next 2 summers. Magic Mountain had never been more ready for that. And I feel like the choices that they made right before the recession were exactly what allowed them to truck through so
I mean, this could be its own episode.
Yeah.
Six Flags Magic Mountain particularly was in such a deep hole. The housing development that's behind the park was about to be where the park is right now.
Yeah.
If nobody wanted to purchase it, the fact that there was no developer who wanted to deal with the cost of redeveloping the land is the only reason that it didn't get sold to a housing developer, to just be flattened with the ground and to not be a theme park.
I feel like nobody knows how close Magic Mountain was.
Magic Mountain was, for lack of better words, gang issues. There were crime issues. They worked with the sheriff department. They got them in. There's a sheriff's office in the park. Now, if you go there, you wouldn't think it was ever an issue. But there was a really dark time right before Tatsu when this park was one of the... I mean, it was so close to its extinction. I mean, we had rides sitting abandoned. We had Cyclone sitting abandoned. We had Flashback sitting abandoned. It was not a good place to be. And they have cleaned up that park so much. I want to give a shout out while we're at it. They went through every single area, every single ride, and said this one needs to get this one needs to happen. This is what we're going to upgrade. Every area gets a retheme. There's one area left, Samurai Summit, that hasn't been touched in the last decade. Everything else has been touched in some shape or form. I mean, they're investing in older rides. Viper, even if it doesn't look like it, they installed a multi-million-dollar new control system and brake system for it in 20, I believe it was 18 or 19. They have been really trending upward, and we love to see it. And with that, we're already nearing 15 minutes. Exactly, boom, 50 minutes from now. We're going to hang up. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Thank you for joining us for X2.
Bye.